Welcome everyone. My name is Eileen Marriott. I'm the museum director at Kids Play. And this week we have a special edition of our regular program, Caregivers Circle, which meets Thursday evenings at 9:30. I'm going to introduce Patty Casella, who is the facilitator for that program, and an educator at Kids Play. Patty.
Hi, welcome to Caregivers Circle. Caregivers Circle runs every Thursday morning, so I put on my green shirt today, and I'm just delighted to be here with everyone. It's this different kind of format today in a way, but Caregivers Circle is dedicated to the idea of the good work caregivers do. And so it's our way of celebrating you all. And in this particular time, I think the celebration should be a big one, because for a lot of you, this is a new step. We are delighted today to welcome Dr. Laura Saunders, and she is visiting us to talk about, Laura's something of an expert about children and families. I know her as a friend and a parent. She'll fill you in a little bit about her professional background, and she's often called upon to talk about the effect of changes on children. So Laura, welcome to Kids Play Museum.
Thank you for inviting me.
And thanks for joining us for Caregiver Circle. So Laura?
All right, thank you. So as Mrs. Casella said, because I will always call her Mrs. Casella because she's my parents' kindergarten teacher, my children's kindergarten teacher. So I am a psychologist at the Institute of Living under Hartford Healthcare. I do a lot of media work for Hartford Healthcare around issues involving children, adolescents, families, and parents. So obviously I've been called on a lot the past 2 weeks. And we have actually a very big event this evening. If people are interested on WFSB, which is Channel 3, there's a 3-hour special, and it's going to be myself and actually an elder care person will be an expert on there as well. That'll be from 8 to 11. That'll also have some information. I was actually on another thing yesterday with infection control specialists from Hartford Hospital. So we can talk about some of that as well. But I think that these are uncharted waters. These are very, very difficult times for individuals and families. Kids are not in school. Some parents are not working. Jobs are being sort of laid off or put aside. People are being told to spend time with their families. This concept of social distancing, we did not even know this word 2 weeks ago, and now it's being used in most every conversation. But I do like to differentiate between social distancing and self-quarantine, because they're actually different concepts. So social distancing is just that. It's keeping social distance. So if you have to go to the grocery store, which obviously we have to go to the grocery store or the gas station or the pharmacy, you're supposed to keep 3 to 6 feet of distance between the other people. And the reason for that is because that is the distance that an air droplet can travel. This coronavirus is spread through, it's called contact precautions. They're spread through air droplets. So it's through sneezing or coughing and then contact with the droplet and then touching your own, mouth or nose. So it's particularly difficult for children because they're constantly touching their faces. I mean, even a lot of adults touch their faces. What the infectious disease folks yesterday were saying was that the children can get this coronavirus. However, they tend to get it in far more milder forms. It's really the individuals who have a pre-existing condition or who are over 65 that, because your immune system is not as strong when you're over 65. So the concept that children don't get it is not true. They can get it, they just get it in much milder forms because they have very active immune systems. If you think about, any kind of a child setting, kids are frequently have a runny nose or a cough or something, their immune systems are constantly working. So their immune systems are almost better equipped to fight off something like this. But these are really difficult times, because having people not out of work, so worried about financial issues, and sort of stuck at home, and now they have to be the educators, right? There's a lot of different memes online about, you know, I'm homeschooling my children and I just expelled my first 2 students. So, you know, I think parents are having a deeper appreciation for the hard work of teachers, which we've all known, or some of us have known. So to really look at how do we provide structure for our children. It won't be the same structure as school, but some amount of structure, especially for young children, because we as a human species thrive on structure and routine, and kids especially thrive on structure and routine. But to give yourself permission to not do things perfectly and to feel frustrated. And I think a lot of people are very anxious because there's frequent hearsay and rumor out there. And Eileen had just shared something about propane tanks, right? If you don't see it on the World Health Organization or the Centers for Disease Control site, Hartford Healthcare has a great site with information, and they have a hotline, which I can get you to call in for information. If you don't get it from a fact-based source of information, you know, this is not a time for fake news. Please don't believe it. You know, there's rumors about it could spread on packages that get delivered to the house. I mean, honestly, it's just a good idea to practice good hand hygiene. If you get a package to your house and you open it, then wash your hands. It's just, you know, things that we just never thought of before. We've been getting packages to the house since, you know, they invented Amazon Prime. So for the most part, we just have to really stay as even and calm as possible in these completely uncertain times. I can't hear you, Mrs. Casella.
No.
Now I can.
Okay. Let me start again. We always have a quote that we carry through the week as caregivers, and I heard yours on TV the other night. You said, in no uncertain terms, do not treat this like a snow day. Could you talk a little bit about that quote?
Yes. So we all know snow days. A snow day is, yay, you know, we have no school, you know, we can ferry any of the kids that are within walking distance to our house over. I mean, sometimes even when you have a snow day, the roads are already starting to clear. So kids get together, they have fun, they talk, they play. You can do play dates on a day like that. And that's not what this is about. This is not a snow day. This is an opportunity for us to stay sort of with your own family group. I know this is extremely hard, and the thought of it lasting a very long time is daunting. So I look at it in small chunks. So it's not a snow day today, meaning we have to sort of stay within our own confines, but that doesn't mean you can't go outside. That doesn't mean you can't, you know, necessarily go for a walk or go for a hike or do outside activities. There's been some speculation about playgrounds. You just have to practice good hand hygiene. And if you're at a playground, you sort of keep some distance from other kids. The reality is it's going to be near impossible to keep kids, you know, completely at a social distancing perspective. But you need to try as much as possible, because it's about kind of breaking the chain, or flattening the curves, another term that people are using that no one even heard of 2 weeks ago. And the concept of flattening the curve is that the healthcare system only has so much capacity, and we can't overwhelm their capacity. We have only so many ICU beds and so many hospital beds. So we can't have tens of thousands of people getting sick all at one time, because we don't have that capacity. So we need to spread this out over a longer period of time. And the way that we do that is through social distancing. So this is not a snow day. This is a new kind of day where we have an opportunity to do things with our family. In fact, I have been spending doing hour to 2 hour long hikes with my daughter, who has not wanted to spend time with me in about 7 or 8 years. So she's 15, And we've been spending copious amounts of time outside because even she wants something to do, and we keep a distance from other people and we're outdoors, and it's been actually a really nice time to talk and explore different things. So to look at these as opportunities to spend time with your family. However, it is okay to have what I call downtime, where child A is in their room, child B is in the living room, child C is in the basement, and the parent is in the kitchen, where everyone has their own space, and to build that into a semi-structured day, because the concept, the developmental concept is called self-soothing, right? You need to learn how to soothe yourself, how to entertain yourself. Whether that's reading time. I mean, I'm generally a proponent of less screen time and less electronics time. However, I think it's okay in these very difficult times to sort of release that a little bit, and let kids figure out ways to have their own downtime.
Thank you. And Eileen, do you want to open it up to other people?
Yeah, so right now we, we're in this group. I just wanted to observe, I think it was Saturday, probably midday, where we were a day and a half into social distancing, and my 11-year-old said, "I'm bored to death. I'm never going to survive this."
Right.
It's always darkest before the dawn, and so I think it's, and we certainly have a lot more adapting to do. But I think that this idea of boredom is almost a novel concept to children today, because we do structure a lot of activities for them. So I think that, I'm hoping this is okay. I had a lot of bored hours when I was young. And what are the ways that we can support our kids to have that independent time, and to, as caregivers, give ourselves a little bit of a break from feeling like we have to be productive worker and a teacher all at the same time, as parenting?
Yeah, I think it's trying to, sometimes in those situations, it's offering choices. Sometimes kids just need some ideas, right? So, when the child says I'm bored, you can do A, B, or C. Whatever those three activities are, I wouldn't give them any more than three choices. Sometimes even two's enough. And they say, I don't want to do those things. And you say, well, you have choice A, B, or C. You can choose any of those things. Those are things that you can do on your own. If you need help at a later point, you can come back and check in with me. So, and to give time frames, you can come back and check in with me in 30 minutes. To just allow some separation time. I don't want people to have the false assumption that, we have to be together all the time. That's really not what this is about, because this is totally foreign. Right now, I mean, college kids would be home. This is spring break. My son's home. But right now, this is when kids are typically in school and parents are typically at work. We're not used to being all together all day long. We only have 2 days a week for that, and it's called the weekend. Or as my kids used to call it when they were younger, these are the no school days. So, so to have 7 days a week together is going to be challenging. So, to give families permission to have separation time, to really, have some activities together, but it's okay to spend time apart. There will be increases in conflict because we're not used to spending all this time together. And so to manage the conflict as best you can.
Yeah, I would say the other thing I've been thinking about recently is how, without school and working outside the home as these big differentiators, is it more important now to make sure on those weekends that we're treating them a little differently, that structure looks a little different, so that it's not so monotonous?
I think as much as you can to keep routines, right? So in general, Monday through Friday, our routines are a little bit more structured. The weekends, by definition, the no school days are, where we can sort of loosen things up a little bit. You can sleep in a little later. You might not have to do your reading time and your math time and your science time. You can loosen things up a little bit. But remember, we don't, it's not like we're going to be going to someone's house to hang out for several hours. I had at one point floated the concept of a best friend family or a best friend, where you really limit your exposure. It's like a like a mutual contract. So we have that with my daughter. She has a friend who's not spending time with other people, and they're just spending time with each other. Actually, we haven't spent time in the past 4 days. Now they're just doing FaceTime. But, you know, there are other options now that we didn't have, you know, years ago. You know, it is Zoom, right? So never even heard of this app until yesterday. And then after yesterday, I've heard it about a dozen times, and I'll be using it to run my program later. So there are other options as a way for people to connect. We always could go back to the old-fashioned phone as well, where we actually learned to talk and communicate with people. But to find other forums where kids can connect. Kids are by nature social beings. So to tell them that they can't socialize at all is actually going to be painful. And so I really want everyone, ourselves included, to look at this in small chunks of time. Like, how am I going to manage? Today's Thursday. How am I going to manage, you know, today and tomorrow? And then we'll make different plans for the weekend. You know, to worry about how things are going to be at the end of April or May is absolutely daunting and overwhelming. So to keep things in small chunks of time, because it's less overwhelming at that point.
How about the scary dialogue? Do you have some guidelines for, because some of the things we are hearing and children are hearing are frightening.
So, as I said earlier, there is a lot of hearsay, there is a lot of rumor. To really work hard to not engage in that. Right now, we are at the peak of this. I mean, school's just out this week. It is, you know, I was in the grocery store last night. It is a part of every single conversation that anyone is having. So what I generally say is try to keep those adult conversations between adults. Really try to separate your children, but when you're all in the same space, it's harder. So just try to be mindful of the conversations that you're having, so that children aren't overhearing. We generally don't want kids to know how worried their parents are. And right now, you know, well, as of yesterday's Hartford Current, you know, there's only 4 confirmed cases in Hartford County. I know you're out in Litchfield. I think there's about the same out in Litchfield. But they said there could be upwards of 6,000 people that actually have this, that are out in the community somewhere, which is why we're trying to use social distancing. But again, children are actually having this at lower rates with the least amount of symptoms. It's our elder folk, our grandparents, our neighbors, our older neighbors that we want to look out for. So to try to frame things not in terms of doom and gloom. I mean, if you want the actual statistics, the death rate is actually under 3%. That's pretty good. You know, more people die of the flu. But to stay with managing your anxiety amongst adults and try to keep it out of earshot of children as much as possible.
Thank you. And Eileen, do we have the opportunity for other people to ask questions? Or?
You know, I think for today we're going to keep it at this, but I will end the recording unless, Laura, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I'm happy to come back on again and talk about some of this. This is evolving so quickly. Honestly, you know, today is Thursday the 19th. I mean, what we knew last Thursday, the 12th, was different. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I'm happy to come back on again and talk about how things are evolving.
Well, we appreciate that, and definitely appreciate your guidance at this time. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for being our resource today, Laura.
Thanks, Mrs. Casella.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.